The Alaskan wilderness stretched endlessly before her, a vast tapestry of snow-capped mountains, frozen lakes, and dense evergreen forests. For Dr. Elena Carter, a wildlife biologist with a deep passion for understanding the natural world, this was more than just a research expedition. It was an opportunity to immerse herself in one of the most remote and untamed landscapes on Earth. Her mission? To study the behavior of gray wolves in their natural habitat and gain insights into their social dynamics, hunting patterns, and survival strategies. Elena had spent years preparing for this journey. She packed lightly but strategically: warm layers, durable boots, a sturdy tent, and enough supplies to last several weeks. But beyond the physical preparation, she carried something far more important: a deep respect for the creatures she hoped to observe and the land they called home. After days of trekking through the icy tundra, Elena finally reached her destination, a secluded valley surrounded by towering peaks where a pack of wolves was rumored to reside. Setting up camp under the cover of darkness, she ensured her presence. Living among wolves wasn't without its challenges. The harsh Alaskan winter tested Elena's endurance daily. Temperatures plummeted below freezing, and blizzards often forced her to hunker down in her tent for days at a time. Food supplies dwindled faster than expected, and there were moments when she wondered if she'd made a grave mistake venturing so far from civilization. But the wolves taught her valuable lessons about survival. She learned to read the signs of the forest, the tracks left by prey, the subtle shifts in wind direction, and the calls of birds signaling danger. When food became scarce, she mimicked the wolves' patience, waiting silently for hours until the perfect moment to strike. There were also moments of pure joy. Watching the pups tumble and wrestle in the snow brought laughter to her lips. Witnessing the pack work together during a hunt filled her with awe. These animals weren't just predators. They were intelligent, compassionate beings capable of forming deep bonds with one another. Would remain as unobtrusive as possible. The last thing she wanted was to startle or disturb the animals she came to study. On her third morning in the valley, Elena woke to the sound of howls echoing across the frosty landscape. Her heart raced as she grabbed her binoculars and climbed to a nearby ridge for a better view. There, at the edge of a clearing, stood a family of wolves, 5 adults and 3 pups, their fur shimmering silver in the pale sunlight. They moved with grace and purpose, their movements synchronized like a well-rehearsed dance. For hours, Elena watched from a distance, careful not to make sudden movements that might alarm them. As the day wore on, the wolves seemed to grow accustomed to her presence. One of the younger pups even ventured closer, sniffing the air curiously. Though still wary, the pack appeared less hostile, allowing Elena to document their interactions and behaviors in detail. Over the following weeks, Elena worked tirelessly to build trust with the wolves. Each day, she positioned herself slightly closer to their territory, speaking softly to them in a calm voice. She avoided direct eye contact, knowing it could be perceived as a challenge, and instead focused on observing their body language and vocalizations. One evening, as twilight painted the sky in hues of pink and gold, something extraordinary happened. A large male wolf, the alpha of the pack, approached her campsite. He stood just a few feet away, his amber eyes locked onto hers. Time seemed to stand still as they stared at each other, 2 beings separated by species, yet united by curiosity. Slowly, the wolf lowered his head and let out a low, rumbling growl. Instead of fear, Elena felt a surge of exhilaration. This wasn't aggression, it was communication. She responded by remaining perfectly still, offering no threat. After what felt like an eternity, the wolf turned and trotted back to his pack, leaving Elena breathless and awestruck. From that moment on, the wolves began to accept her presence. They allowed her to sit near their dens, watch them hunt, and even play with the pups. It was a privilege few humans ever experienced, and Elena knew she had been granted rare access to their hidden world. Living among wolves wasn't without its challenges. The harsh Alaskan winter tested Elena's endurance daily. Temperatures plummeted below freezing, and blizzards often forced her to hunker down in her tent for days at a time. Food supplies dwindled faster than expected, and there were moments when she wondered if she'd made a grave mistake venturing so far from civilization. but the wolves taught her valuable lessons about survival. She learned to read the signs of the forest, the tracks left by prey, the subtle shifts in wind direction, and the calls of birds signaling danger. When food became scarce, she mimicked the wolves' patience, waiting silently for hours until the perfect moment to strike. There were also moments of pure joy. Watching the pups tumble and wrestle in the snow brought laughter to her lips, while witnessing the pack work together during a hunt filled her with awe. These animals weren't just predators. They were intelligent, compassionate beings capable of forming deep bonds with one another. One frigid night, as Elena sat by her fire, she noticed the alpha male pacing restlessly nearby. His ears were perked, his tail stiff, and his gaze fixed on the horizon. Something was wrong. Following his lead, Elena scanned the darkness and spotted a pair of glowing eyes reflecting faintly in the moonlight. A grizzly bear, a formidable predator even for a pack of wolves, had wandered too close to their territory. Without hesitation, the wolves sprang into action. The alpha led the charge, his deep barks reverberating through the forest. The rest of the pack followed, encircling the bear and snapping their jaws menacingly. To her relief, the bear retreated after a tense standoff, disappearing into the shadows. Later that night, the alpha returned to Elena's camp and nudged her gently with his nose, as if thanking her for staying out of harm's way. In that instant, she realized she was no longer just an observer, she was part of their community. After 3 months living among the wolves, Elena reluctantly prepared to leave the valley. Though she longed to stay, she knew her presence could eventually disrupt the delicate balance of the pack's life. Packing up her gear, she cast one final glance at the clearing where the wolves had welcomed her into their world. As she walked away, the alpha let out a mournful howl, its haunting melody carrying across the frozen expanse. Tears welled in Elena's eyes, but she smiled through them. She had gained more than data and observations during her time in Alaska. She had discovered a profound connection to nature and a renewed appreciation for the resilience and beauty of life in the wild. Back home, Elena shared her findings with the scientific community, advocating for greater conservation efforts to protect endangered species like the gray wolf. But her story resonated far beyond academia. Through interviews, documentaries, and public talks, she inspired countless others to venture into the wilderness and listen, to truly hear the whispers of the animals who call it home. And though she returned to the comforts of modern life, a piece of Elena remained forever in that Alaskan valley, forever among the wolves.